So up next, we are going to have a few presentations from some of the partners who've helped NOFIA make this conference a reality. And then we will wrap up the morning session with another final presentation about a project going on in Northern Ontario. So to start, I will hand it over to David Thompson, who is the manager of the Rural Agri Innovation Network, who we have partnered with to present this conference. So over to you, Dave.
Great. Can you see my screen there, Cameron?
Yep, looks good. Okay.
So good morning, everybody. I'm David Thompson, manager with the Rural Agri Innovation Network. We're based here in Sault Ste. Marie, and our mandate is building a more resilient agri-food sector through innovative research and agri-food system development. And of course, we can't do this work alone. And so we have so many partners like NOFIA across Northern Ontario that make our applied research and programs possible. And especially with the help of local producers, where a lot of our applied research projects are done here in the Algoma district. I just wanted to touch on one project that NOFIA, as well as Greater Sudbury Food Policy Council and College Boreal undertook just in 2020 that went into 2021, which is exploring the impacts of COVID on the agriculture sector in the north. And certainly when the study was done, it didn't capture, a lot of the ongoing economic issues and supply chain issues, fertilizer increase of prices. But we undertook a number of focus groups and producer surveys, kind of highlighting some of these. And some of the key themes that came out through that project was meat processing delays that were occurring throughout Northern Ontario, where producers are waiting between 6 weeks to 6 months, or maybe more, to get animals to slaughter at abattoirs. Another theme was rural broadband access and across the north, as it is now essential necessity for online learning and for working from home. There's also been a big shift to online marketing platforms, and so it was with the number of these themes that kind of got us planning for programs. And one of the programs that we're excited to roll out this year is a program called the Responsive Advancement for Meat Processing Program. This is essentially to grow, diversify our northern meat sector supply chain in Northern Ontario in response to a number of factors: labor challenges, growing demand of local food, and technology adoption needs. So this program seeks to provide expert consultation and grant contributions to abattoirs and freestanding meat plants throughout the north. And they can have projects to focus on reducing ecological impact, value-added processing, and increasing productivity. So grant funding is limited to a max of $25,000 at 75% cost share for individual applicants. These can include private sector enterprises, co-ops, not-for-profits, and First Nation communities. And there's going to be more information about this that will be coming. Our program guide is being finalized, and we hope to get applications out fairly soon for that program. Another initiative that we've undertook over the last few years, but is now coming back this year, is a delegation that we do to trade shows. And one trade show in particular is the Restaurants Canada trade show, which is happening May 9th to 11th. And so we work with a number of processors and producers to set up a Taste Northern Ontario section of that show to connect with food service industry in the Toronto area, but also it also draws a number of businesses from across Canada. So if you're interested in that, please give us a call, as we had some booth space open up because of the rescheduling of the event. Another initiative that we're starting this year is a new podcast called the PAXAC Project between RAIN and Nordic Institute here at Algoma University. And this podcast is exploring Northern specific issues and opportunities for communities, organizations, and entrepreneurs to meet their goals and adapt in Northern Ontario. So our first season is exploring a number of different topics like the impact of sandhill cranes, the drought impacts that are happening up in Northwestern Ontario, and hearing from new entrepreneurs in the agri-food sector as they're adapting to change as startups these times. So more information can be found on these platforms here. And certainly our launch is scheduled for March, so you can get signed up and follow us on Facebook or on Twitter. So one other thing I would like to share is the short video here. And let me see if I could share videos, if I have the ability to do that. Cameron, I'm not too sure.
You should be able to.
Okay. Let me know if you hear the sound or not.
These days, successful farming is about more than just growing crops and raising livestock. It's also about appropriate production and marketing innovations that boost efficiency, meet local consumer demands, and boost environmental performance. This video showcases two specific examples of clean agricultural technology in use right now as part of the Martin family's Pure Island beef operation on Manitoulin Island, Ontario. Innovation is something the Martins have been pursuing ever since they began farming in 1989, and it's a big part of their success today. Nicholas Martin, with assistance from the Sustainable New Agri-Food Products and Productivity Program, purchased a New Holland FP240 forage harvester with kernel processor in 2020 to help meet the demand for locally raised, forage finished, and grain finished beef in Northern Ontario. The Martins market all the beef from their 350 cow operation exclusively to consumers and retail outlets through their Pure Island beef brand, with virtually no animals going through traditional commodity channels. The Martins aim to produce what their customers want, and this means they need high quality, high energy feeds to finish and age their premium beef the way consumers demand.
We got into corn silage with the purchase of this. The tonnage advantage of corn over whether it be barley or grasses into the feed diet it's phenomenal, the tonnage advantage. So we're able to really expand the amount of cattle that we're feeding without expanding our land base.
Besides high production capacity, this forage harvester has a kernel processor that makes the grain component of barley and corn silage much more digestible for cattle by breaking down individual kernels instead of letting them pass through the animal whole. The bottom line is more efficient harvesting of the silage for finishing cattle and more efficient use of that feed as it's being fed. Here you can see the kernel processor in action with the cover opened so you can see what's going on. All of the silage passes between these two closely spaced serrated rollers, crushing the material and especially making the grain portion more digestible. For years, the Martins used a conventional horizontal beater manure spreader to return nutrients and organic matter back to the soil for the barnyard. All that changed when Jim Martin decided to improve the efficiency of the manure side of the operation. The SNAP program assisted with the purchase of a vertical beater hydraulic feed Hagedorn 5290 manure spreader for their operation. Before this machine arrived on the farm, it took longer to spread the manure from a year's worth of winter feeding than it did to harvest and store the feed that ended up in the manure. Jim's new vertical beater unit cut spreading time by at least 50% or 2 weeks less work each year compared with before, while also improving spreading performance in a big way.
We don't have any more of these clumps anymore. We have a much finer spread, even spread. Whereas the previous horizontal spreaders, at times it was almost like it's throwing out a blanket of manure. This type of spreader, that just doesn't happen. The spread pattern is just much, much better than what we had before.
The large flotation tires greatly reduce soil compaction too. Reducing soil compaction is especially important with a manure spreader because spreading operations often happen at times of the year when soil is wet and susceptible to yield robbing compaction. This spreader holds about 2 times as much manure as their previous model, So there are fewer trips back to the manure pile and even less soil compaction as a result. Food security is important for everyone, but it only happens when good land, hard work, sound decisions, and technical innovation come together with skill and experience. The Martins offer one example of what successful, environmentally sound innovation looks like on the farmland of Ontario. The Sustainable New Agri-Food Products and Productivity Program, SNAP for short, is a funding initiative that responds to opportunities and eases the challenges of expanding agri-food production in Northern Ontario. SNAP is an initiative of the Rural Agri-Innovation Network, a division of the Sault Ste. Marie Innovation Centre, in partnership with the Northern Ontario Farm Innovation Alliance and the Northwestern Ontario Innovation Centre. SNAP is proudly supported by FedNor and the Government of Canada.
So I hope that just kind of gives you a picture of the number of projects that we were able to fund through SNAP over the last few years. This program is sunsetting this year with our last intake, but certainly we want to hear from people of their successes in SNAP. So get in touch with me if you have any more great stories that like the Martins have. So the best way to connect with us is through our mailing list, rainalgoma.ca/contact. You can get signed up there or follow us on social media. So that's it. Thanks, Cameron, for the opportunity, and wish you all the best. And thanks, everybody, for joining.
Thank you, Dave. And we've just got we've got one question that has come in here, and I'm not sure whether this was about the meat processing project or possibly about SNAP. But the question is, does this pertain to startups?
For the SNAP program, we've required a business plan for startups that are applying, and this will also be true of the new meat processing program as well. We will also, definitely need to see that startup has a license either as an abattoir or a freestanding meat plant through OMAFRA.
Yeah, thank you. It was about the meat processing. They clarified that, so thank you. And yeah, if any more questions come in for Dave, then we can address them at the end. But with that, I will move on to Carl Stevenson, and I would invite him to talk about the Chicken Farmers of Ontario.
Cameron?
Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hi, can you see my screen there now?
Yes, yes, we can.
Great. Okay, thank you, Nofia, and the rest of the sponsors for this conference. This is always something that I have highlighted on my calendar every year. One question I'm going to answer right up front. Why is the Chicken Farmers of Ontario sponsoring a Northern Ag Conference? Many years ago, I think 8 years ago now, the board looked at how it was serving both the farmers of Ontario and the consumers of Ontario. And we realized that there was really an opportunity for us to support the local food movement. And that's where out of that came a couple of programs. I'm going to talk a little bit about the artisanal today, but that's why this is important to us. I quite enjoy getting up and speaking to any conferences or supporting any conferences in the North, and it is an important part of our portfolio of programs. So. Just to talk briefly about the artisanal chicken program, that's a program that can get farmers can be licensed to grow between 600 and 3,000 chickens in a calendar year. We currently have 21 active northern farmers. I have Over the past 2 years, there's been a lot of, I've had a lot more calls coming from northern farmers. We actually have 10 farmers that have applied from the north this year. So if they all go through the process and successfully participate this year, that'll push us all the way up to 31 farmers across the north. To me, that's really exciting. It has allowed, I think the success of the program has allowed us to see some improvements and some additional abattoir space being created across the north. To be honest, Northern Ontario is better serviced for small abattoirs than most of Southern Ontario, especially Eastern Ontario. So you've got that going for you up there. Just through some meetings that I've had in the last few weeks, we're busy with our partners at Oafri supporting a couple of new business owners that are looking to open up mothballed white meat abattoirs and get them back online in the next year or two. So that's all exciting news. And the other thing that I'll just highlight, and this has been going on, I think now for 6 years. I partner with Oafri, and since COVID, we've added in the Poultry Industry Council as another partner, and we provide educational webinars. We used to come up pre-COVID and do live sessions. We'd travel around Northern Ontario for a week and be putting on up to 8 presentations as we traveled around Northern Ontario, talking about poultry health, getting into layer management, the flaws, feed, light, air, water, space sanitation. We've moved all that online, and we've found a much better take up of our presentations. We generally get about 150 people, where we're just working at putting together the program for this coming year. With our partners there in the north, you should soon be seeing some dates come out for these webinars. I believe we're doing 3 webinars over a 6-week period. So you can look for that. Education is big. Both Aldam, who partners from Oafri, and myself, education on how to raise poultry, keep poultry safe, is really important to both of us, as well as the animal welfare component. So we love doing these presentations and look forward to doing that again. The one thing we will be stressing this year is biosecurity and avian influenza. We're starting to see, we've got some incidences in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and going to the west of us in the state of Illinois. There's an outbreak in the turkeys, and we know that there's some outbreaks in South Carolina. It's going to be wild birds. A lot of the waterfowl coming back through that we're really watching closely. So if I could say anything to anyone that does have any poultry, try to keep them indoors during that migratory period, just to protect your birds. It will be something that you'll be hearing more from both Oafri and the CFO in the very near future. Anyway, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the conference. There's some excellent speakers that I'm going to stick around, and I can put my email in the chat later on as well. Just if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to follow up with them. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Carl. And yeah, that'd be great if you can put your email in the chat, and anyone can follow up if they have any questions. We did get one, not so much a question as a comment through the Q&A function, and it just recommends that the Northern Poultry Tour is awesome. If you have any interest in poultry, you should definitely sign up for it. So there you go, a rave review.
Wonderful.
So thank you, Carl. And with that, we will move on to Thora Cartledge, who I will invite to speak about bioenterprise. And Thora, I have your presentation queued up here. Just give me a second and I will get it going.
All right. And you've got a voice from me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Super. Good morning, everyone. I recognize names in the chat. Great to see you, or at least see your names in the chat. And to let you know that today, building on that rich start with a talk from Amanda about sustainable practices for land conversion, I want to introduce a new player, well, maybe a year and a half new now, national network of entrepreneurs, accelerators, service partners, and like-minded organizations, mainly not-for-profits, interested in and committed to driving innovation in Canada's agri-tech and agri-food industry. Building on the sustainable practices that we're going to hear more about, I think, over today and tomorrow from other on-the-ground producers and researchers like Amanda and others who are working diligently to promote sustainable, increased productivity farm practices. Our role as a national network, if you want to turn the slide or move the slide, Cameron, is really to work with the best of the industry. And when I say the industry, I'm referring to food tech and agricultural technology sector, a fairly small slice of the pie that we're all a part of in the food and ag sector. But our place is to work across Canada with a knowledge base, as well as investors, and, well, just good ideas about harnessing new technologies, digital mainly, but not exclusively, to promote sustainable agricultural practices, which harkens back to the bio in the bioenterprise title for the firm. It's a not-for-profit. It's comprised of innovation advisors from across Canada, as we've listed here, with specific knowledge. As we've heard earlier today, and we will again, in areas of precision ag, crop technologies generally, animal health, and marketing. We work with advisory committees, again, from across Canada at the national scale, who are based in academic institutions or research associations from University of Fraser Valley to Dalhousie to Lakehead University and College Boreal here in Northern Ontario. And at the Northern Ontario scale, where I am regional manager for Northern Ontario's unit with Bioenterprise, the Northern Ontario Advisory Committee, comprised of at least two of our advisors are on the call today, Kim Jo Bliss and Stefan Hoff. But with their expertise and their knowledge of the region's agricultural history and technologies, we're looking, and this is primarily Bioenterprise's intent, to scale up startups who are interested in advancing technologies, using technologies on the ground. Our network of partners are committed to providing services, and you can turn the page or move the slide, Cameron, committed to fostering collaboration and connectivity across the Canadian food and agri-tech industry, to build efficiencies, to increase innovation capacity, to streamline commercialization. And this is where our space in the food and ag sector is not so much on the applied research or practices side or end, but on the commercialization of technologies to help companies connect, innovate, and grow, that byline to bioenterprises title. Next. Just across Canada, again, we have in the main, and particularly in Northern Ontario, been working fairly hard over the last year and a half since this pilot was initiated by FedNor to establish partnerships. The green dots representing those partnerships that have already been established from Old College in Alberta to University of Guelph in Southern Ontario, and Business Accelerator centers in other parts of the country. The yellow dots representing those partnerships that we're looking to establish. And if we turn the slide, we'll see that in Northern Ontario, and in order to be able to read the partnerships, I've included only those that would fit nicely on the screen, but there are others that come to mind too, including a couple who've been referenced this morning, Grain Farmers of Ontario and Oafri. But our partner network includes from academic knowledge-based institutions, Lakehead, including the Agricultural Research Station, Collège Boreal, and others. Ingenuity, representative of one of the regional business incubator centers that we hope to build on that relationship with the regional innovation centers. And we've just heard from Dave Thompson and the stack of programs and successful outcomes from the RAINS SNAP program in particular, looking to build on that work that regional innovation centers have done, that will let good technologies be carried even further by the businesses who want to develop them for wider use. CRIBE is the Center for Research and Innovation in the Bioeconomy, a rather big mouthful for a not-for-profit based in the forestry industry that itself is interested in the agricultural products from forest biomass. Canadian Federation of Agriculture, I thought that this audience would be interested in that CFA has just within the last several weeks signed partnership with Bioenterprise. Their interest, the way that Mary Robinson, their president, says it is that farmers really, and over history, have driven innovation on their fields and in their crop growing, in their livestock raising, but are looking always to not only farm sustainably to keep soil in good shape, etc., but also to increase productivity. So with new innovations, with technologies that Bioenterprise can help link the farm community to, we're hoping that through the partnership with CFA, and there are no fewer than 200,000 member farms to the CFA, that we'll be able to forge a stronger connection between what's available in the way of technological applications and good farm practices. CENGEN I put on the screen just because, and that mouthful stands for the Center for Excellence in Next Generation Networks, an Ottawa-based firm that has a particular interest in expanding on and customizing broadband service needs, and has particular interest in Northern Ontario. So next slide. These are the services, just to bring this to a quick conclusion for you, because I have one small announcement that I want to make too. But we're looking with businesses with whom we've begun work across Northern Ontario to offer that expertise and knowledge that, that I mentioned earlier, that is available to us through a network from across the country. Mentorship, coaching, and advice for both startups and scale-ups, to the possibilities of scaling up their businesses and using technologies. Access to not only public funding, through one program in particular we've just run with Oafri called Oafri, to further commercialization efforts, but also private financing too, through corporate sponsors of Bioenterprise. Access to international trade and global partnerships for those who want to go that far, and then access to, for those interested in an actual membership with Bioenterprise, which allows for deeper level digging into issues, pain points, and advancing of their businesses. Next. just a few examples of the kind of support that we're offering businesses. When I say businesses, there's small and medium enterprises that have a hunch that their particular technology or idea for advancing cleaner practices, healthier food, have been recipients of different funds we've been able to offer through different sources, not only Oafri, that's a very recent partnership that we've developed, but the grocer, some of you may know as a container box hydroponic supplier who manufacture modular hydroponic systems to enable commercial food production almost anywhere across Canada, including northern and remote communities. We were able to support in non-repairable funding over $100,000 for allowing them to create new jobs and market their product. Next. Mentorship and coaching, the strong point that I want to bring to this group today, that we're eager and open to providing. An example would be local line, which is a fairly familiar term now within the online selling realm. And there's been so much more of that since COVID particularly, but even in advance of that. So we've been able to conduct market assessments and do something that we call a reality check with local line as to the pain points that they were experiencing in terms of geographic reach that they wanted to make, and been able with them to scrutinize their business model. Next. Yeah, network access, really, it's the networking, back to where I started with this brief talk. We're a network of many different players, but all with an interest in investing in agriculture and in agriculture technologies and food technologies that will really strengthen Canada's role too as a leader in innovation. Transport Genie is an example of a fairly recent business partner where they've created precision monitoring sensor devices to be able to track in the cab of a transport the relative health, air temperature, body condition of the animals, for example, that they're transporting from one part of the country to the other. So we were able to provide an opportunity for them to present at an Ag Tech Venture Forum recently with good positive results in the way of a cash prize for them from that. Finally, if you want to change the slide, just a brief, and we'll make this presentation available so that you can see the small print, but just the range of industry sectors that that we do engage with, from crop science, as I mentioned, ag waste, to water and environmental technologies. Can you put to the last slide? I have no slide for what I want to announce, and this is very much a soft launch, but just before I sign off, we've learned this week that we're in a position to be able to offer something of a prize competition to innovative operations at the farm level, or businesses with an idea for advancing technologies, as part of a mentored competitive portfolio that we want to put together for and about Northern Ontario. There would be a cash prize, as I say, the equivalent to cash value mentored services for whatever the business is, and an opportunity to showcase your work. And we're going to see some more of it, I know, over the next couple of days by invitation, and we'll be putting it out in a much more formal way so that you can see the details of what I'm talking about. But I'm really pleased, just got the word last night that we're in a position to be able to open that challenge and celebrate with you on the great work that is being done. I want to thank Nofia in particular for the opportunity to sponsor and these few minutes to talk to you. Have a great conference.
You're welcome, Thora, and thank you for sponsoring the conference. We have a couple of questions through the Q&A here. The first one is, does BioEnterprise write funding applications for clients?
BioEnterprise does not write funding applications, will certainly review applications, will not initiate. And in some instances, BioEnterprise may choose to be a co-applicant if there were another not-for-profit, or depending on the terms of the funding eligibility, eligible applicants where co-applications could be done. But for businesses specifically, that's the bane of our existence here, isn't it? There's terrific funding available and not always the skill set at the kitchen table to write the application. I have to say, no, we're not in that business as such, but certainly work with service partners who would do that. However, interested in reviewing and even advising on how the application might be done.
Great. Can you expand on the OAFRI funding that you mentioned, Oafri?
Yeah, it was a program that Oafri put together, and by partnership with BioEnterprise, we became the pass-through and administrator for one piece of the, I'm not sure I remember what all those initials stand for, but innovation is in the title. We were to screen and recommend for funding those businesses either looking to develop the market for their particular product for a maximum, I think, of $30,000 in funding, to actually advancing the process that they might be working on, or the technology that they're working on. So up to $150,000 in funding. There were close to 100 applications for this very short window of application time period over the late 2021. And we were able to recommend, and then Oafri funded only 21 of those 98 or 99, which it says to us, and I think to Oafri also, that there is an appetite, so to speak, for taking a commercialization pathway, to taking a product or a process right to and through regulatory and IP, intellectual property requirements to market. That's where we were startled and encouraged about the quality and just the number of applications that there were. Of the 98, there were 12 or 13 from Northern Ontario. I was pleased to hear that too. And well, I think only one was finally funded. There will be more rounds of this program.
Thanks, Laura. And one more question. Does BioEnterprise assist in funding with on-farm stores to promote farm to table?
Could you ask that a little bit? I'm not quite sure what.
Sure. So just for an example of what BioEnterprise assists with funding, this person is asking whether they would assist with an on-farm store or some sort of similar operation that would promote farm-to-table food consumption.
Got it. Yes. Well, certainly food security and local food is a focus, as it is for so many of us here. And the answer would be, if the farm had not already accessed either Northwest Ontario Innovation Centre, SNAP, even NOFIA, or another business accelerator program, or farm advisement, then to do that first. Our intent is to work complementary to what regional innovation centers are already doing in the way of education, coaching, and even funding. But we'd be very eager if this were a farm operation that we're interested, for example, in moving forward with an online platform that would let them and their products connect to outside the region, or maybe not across Canada, but further promote the farm to table work that they've got, or not work that they've got, but product that they're promoting.
Great, thank you, Thora. Maybe you could put your email in the chat, just in case anyone wants to get in touch with you and talk more about BioEnterprise.
Yeah, Cameron, I'll certainly do that. I'll also put in a link to the annual report just completed for Bioenterprise, just because it puts in context the newness of the Northern Ontario chapter, but to the bigger book that Bioenterprise represents. And do stay tuned. I'm hoping you'll be able to share participant list. We'd like to be able to let people know more formally regarding the Northern Ontario Innovation Portfolio Project.
Sure.
Thanks. Okay,
Sure.
I'll do that right now. Thanks.
And so next, I would like to invite Paula Hopkins to talk about the Cooperation Council of Ontario.
Hi, Cameron. Hello, everybody. I'm going to try and share my screen with you, so bear with me. All right, I just want to make sure I know what you're seeing. Oops, that's not what I want you to see. Hold on. Okay, well, you're not seeing what I want you to see, but that's okay. So my name is Paula Hopkins, and I am the Senior Director of Innovation for the Cooperation Council of Ontario. We are a not-for-profit, we are a social enterprise that has been around since 1964, and our mandate is basically to make a better Ontario through the social economy. So just as a disclaimer, or as a, just to make sure it's clear at the beginning, we are not cooperative, and we're not specifically in agriculture, although we have worked with a number of agricultural partners, and some of whom are on the table today. So the reason why I'm here is to talk to you about this project called Revolution North. I will try and be succinct. I've had a little bit of practice over the past 6 months or so to talk about this project, so I'll try and be as concise as possible. But it has been an idea that's been kicking around since 2019 in various forms, but in 2021, we decided to launch our project, which is what we like to call a solution accelerator, and some other people have called it a venture lab. And basically, I'll show you a brief, I guess, schematic of how they work typically, but our mandate, why we're getting involved in a solution accelerator, is because what we want to do is we want to democratize access to innovation for small and medium-sized businesses in Northern Ontario. And we felt that the solution accelerator or venture lab model would be the best way to do it. So what is a solution accelerator or a venture lab? Basically, what it is, and these exist, we've based ours off of a model in Montreal called MT Labs that is basically in the entertainment sector. But basically what it is a box, and that it is, or a model of how we can access innovation and how we can connect needs with new innovative solutions to help solve those problems. Now, typically how it would work is that there's a big company, a big organization that has money, and they have a problem. And so they approach a venture lab and say, I have this problem, here's some money, please find me a solution. So they will put out a call for proposal, usually within a pool of talent that they have, that they know, and there will be solutions proposed from that pool of talent. And after an initial selection, a few will be asked to pitch, and then the company will say, well, I like that solution. I will, buy that company and absorb it into my company so that the solution can be put into place, or I'll hire that company to put that solution into place. What we want to do is where the democratization comes in is that in Northern Ontario, when we talk about small and medium-sized businesses, which make up about 90% of the businesses in Northern Ontario, some of them don't have $50,000 to plop down on the table and say, find me a solution. So what we thought we would do is instead of having one big company, that we would create a cohort of 10 businesses, and that they would each put in an equal amount of money so that they could collectively, as a resource, or collectively pay for a solution to a problem that they might have in common, or that they will have in common, not might. And then they would go through the same process. In this case, what would happen is that the CCO would act as the accelerator, and we would put out a call for proposal through a large network, including organizations like Bioenterprise, like NOFIA, like Local Food and Farm Co-op, the Ecological Farmers of Ontario, et cetera, and go even beyond the borders of Ontario, and indeed perhaps even the country, to find some solutions. After an initial selection, there would be a few that would pitch, and then this group of 10 would, in a perfect world, select one solution, but in some cases, and probably more realistically, there would be 2 or 3 that would appeal. And that money that was collectively pulled together, all of that money would go towards the solution. So in this case, in the first scenario, it was the one company just paying to have access to a solution, hasn't bought it yet. In our case scenario, the money that the investors would put in all goes to the solution. Now, why am I talking to you about this is because, well, we decided that our first cohort would be in agriculture. We had a choice of 3 different sectors. It would have been tourism, health, or agriculture. And after doing a little bit of research and having the discussion internally, we felt that, during COVID, if we take a look at all 3 of those sectors, apart from distribution issues, of course, and climate, farming seemed to be one of the more stable ones, comparatively speaking, to the other 2. So we decided to launch in September to try and find those 10 groups that would be interested in moving forward on a project. These are our sponsors for this particular activity. So we have received funding from FedNor. We've also received some funding from the Caisse Alliance in Northern Ontario, which is a Francophone credit union, and through the Assemblée de la Francophonie de l'Ontario, which has also further enabled us to work on this project and reduce the costs of the project. So far, the project, our approach perhaps was a little bit. We were told by some of the organizations that we approached that our approach for asking for 10 groups to come together and then try and brainstorm a solution was backwards. So we've decided to change our approach a little bit and try. We are organizing a couple of sessions where we will be doing brainstorming together to find out what kind of problems are existing currently beyond, the research that has already been done and the literature reviews that have already been done, and hopefully from there find if we do find some of these problems in common, that they would then be able to, or we'd be able to find from those participants 10 groups or 10 farms or agribusinesses or not-for-profits and organizations to take part in perhaps finding that solution. So our next session will be on the 10th of March, and we are inviting members who are here. If they're interested in finding out more, we'd like for you to give us get in contact with us and let us know if you're interested in taking part. We'll also be having another session at the annual, conference of the Local Food and Farm Co-op, which will be taking place in April. So if you're taking part in that, be sure to join us. But ultimately, our goal for this process, or for this box that we're proposing, is to encourage innovation in the North, and also to encourage innovation to come to the North. We want to democratize access to innovation for small and medium-sized organizations. And for this cohort, of course, they're agriculture and agribusiness organizations. And we want to keep businesses thriving in Northern Ontario. So I hope that presentation, it was super quick. And if we have time, I can show you the cute little commercial that we, or the infomercial that we did on it. But if not, then, feel free to get in contact with me. I'll put my information in the chat and we can then chat more about it at another time. Nope, that's it. Unless do we have time for like a 2-minute video, Cameron?
Yeah, I think so. We could probably fit that. Sure.
All right. It's just a cute little video. So I'll have to stop sharing and then I'll start again. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, maybe it is. See if I can find it here.
We could put the link in the chat and people could look it up later.
Okay, let's do that because I'm being blocked by the navigation bar for I can't actually access the tab. So but yeah, I'll be happy to put in the link later to the little video.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Paula. And
just one final thing. When I believe that there's going to be some sort of a package or information being sent out after the conference to participants. So more information about the activity on the 10th of March will be there. If I'd be very grateful, the CCO would be very grateful if that you could share that if you're that information amongst your networks as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And finally, for this morning, I would like to invite Daniel Bath from the Vineland Research and Innovation Center to talk about a project entitled Technology Roadmap for Horticulture in Northern Ontario. Over to you, Dan.
Great, thank you very much. Cameron, could you just quickly confirm that you can hear me and you can see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Great, thank you. Thank you again and welcome everyone. I just want to tell you quickly about a project that we're just starting up in collaboration with NOFIA and RAIN. Sorry, can I let's advance my slide. Okay, where we're working on the technology roadmap for horticulture in Northern Ontario. As Cameron mentioned, I'm Dan Bath. I'm a research scientist for horticultural automation at the Vineland Research and Innovation Center located in Vineland, Ontario, which is just between Hamilton and St. Catharines along the QEW highway. Vineland is a research results-oriented Canadian organization dedicated to horticulture science and innovation. We aim to deliver products, solutions, and services through an integrated and collaborative cross-country network. And we are a not-for-profit organization. We've existed in our current form as we're organized now since about 2007. And before that, what is currently our research center was a research outpost associated with the University of Guelph, focused on horticultural research as well. We have R&D capacity in several different fields, from plant variety development to consumer insights to biological crop protection. In particular today, and also the department that I represent is our automation department, where we use cutting edge technology to solve problems for the horticultural sector. We use vision systems, machine learning, robotics, and system integration technology to try to bring new technology or improve existing technology for the horticultural sector across Canada. Over the past year or so, we've been working on a new sort of project for Vineland, and this was in response to funding from OMAFRA in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, looking at how we can to address the labor needs of growers associations across Ontario. This was inspired by the labor crisis that was exacerbated by the travel restrictions due to COVID-19. And so OMAFRA funded several, I think roughly 18 or so growers associations to do technology roadmaps for their respective memberships. And in each of these roadmaps, they give a summary of each industry's need for innovation, a technological review of the current and emerging technologies relevant to those needs, and lastly, highlighting gaps in automation. Here's just a quick example produced by the Holland Marsh Growers Association. They produced an excellent roadmap for their geographical association of farmers that grow various vegetables and horticultural products. And I think a great insight that came from their report was the widening gap between small and large farms. So through a survey of their membership, they assessed the acreage of each operation, and they found a large gap between there were growers of 900 acres and above and growers of 300 acres and below, and a large gap in between. They also found that these growers in these two different groups had very different impacts of labor crises on their operations, in that large growers were more amenable to replacing labor with automation than smaller growers were. This highlights that different sizes of operations have different needs with respect to automation. So we've been working with NOFIA and RAIN in response to some market research that was done in the last year or two that suggests that across Northern Ontario, there's a strong market pull for locally produced agricultural products in general, and in particularly horticultural products. And so our technological roadmap aims to address issues that might be hindering horticultural production in Northern Ontario. So through conversations with NOFIA and RAIN, we've narrowed down our research project to 4 main research topics. One is farming at scales. This is, like I alluded to before, how automation and technology adoption might be impacting differently at different scales of operations. Second are cultures and communities. This section will focus on challenges and barriers to different communities within Northern Ontario, in particular the Anabaptist and Indigenous communities. Third are considerations for growing in colder climates in zones under 5. In particular, growers that might be interested in moving toward horticultural products from other agricultural sectors. And lastly, changing growing conditions. So addressing how recent climate change, so severe weather events, and also generally milder winters and longer growing seasons might impact the horticultural sector in Northern Ontario. Here's a bit about our process. In order to build a roadmap like these, we start with one-on-one interviews with conversations with growers and stakeholders and people across the region and across different interest groups. The goal being to identify key barriers and challenges to automation in agriculture so that we can focus our study on topics that really matter. Second is an online survey where we interpret the results from our interviews to try to get a broader and more quantitative scope of the needs of the industry in the region. Third is an industry research phase where we use a team of scientists and engineers here at Vineland to research various insights and technologies and things from in Canada and around the world that might impact the horticulture industry in both short, medium, and long term. And the last phase is knowledge transfer, where we produce our findings in a written report and an online webinar. So as I mentioned, this project is just getting started. So if you're interested in getting involved in any way, either through perhaps taking part in our interviews, you can get in touch with me. I've pasted my email address into the chat. I've also put it here for you. And also, please do keep an eye out for our survey that should be coming out sometime this spring, and we would really value your participation. So with that, I'll thank you for your attention, and I'll take any questions that anyone might have.
And yeah, we have a couple of minutes, so if anyone has any questions for any of the presenters who have presented this morning, we could field them now. I don't see any coming up, but we'll just wait for a couple minutes in case anyone has any. Well, actually, so one came through on the chat, and not necessarily for you, Dan, but perhaps for some of the other organizations that presented earlier, offering This question presented the situation of a newly graduated student in agriculture who has knowledge but a lack of money to start a business. How would the organizations accelerate a solution for this person, if they have any suggestions? And I will welcome, I think that was, the question was asked during Paula's presentation, but I can welcome any of the presenters to field a response to that.
Well, if it was asked during my session, I can start.
Sure.
So within the project of Revolution North, the cohort that we're asking for, the 10 and groups, agriculture, agribusinesses that are looking for a solution, there we're expecting that they're already established and that they have a problem that they're bringing to the table that they want solved. But however, so that's not a way to not in that cohort, you won't be funded. However, if you are the one who wants to propose a solution, that absolutely can be, the target of the funds that are gathered for that particular project. So, you might be at the idea stage, you might be at the prototype stage. Ideally, you'd be, you'd have some proof of concept. You'd be at a prototype stage. So whatever money is gathered, in this case, we're looking at around $50,000. That would go to you to either, finish up wrap up some loose ends, or could be eventually used as seed money for, or to go get other monies. And how, we would then go on to help you support access the innovation centers and other options to continue developing or commercializing the product. So that's how you'd be able to be supported through our project.
Thanks, Paula. Back to Dan, can you repeat your time frame for the research project? And is it all encompassing of horticulture, including greenhouse and vertical farming, for example?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the timeframe for the project, it's just getting started now. We are starting the interview phase. We've had 2 interviews so far, and we'll be conducting the interviews throughout the remainder of the month of February. These are kind of soft deadlines. We can extend if necessary. We'll be aiming to put out a survey into March to ask questions of the broader community of growers and stakeholders. And we aim to produce the report likely sometime in May. As for the breadth of whether it's all encompassing of horticulture, yes, indeed. So for us, horticulture includes field crops, greenhouses, vertical farming, and even we've had this discussion that we would even include the maple sugar, maple syrup industry.
Thanks, Dan. And with that, seeing no other questions, I would like to thank all of our presenters and all of our sponsors and everyone in the audience for joining us for this first morning session of the 2022 Northern Ontario Ag Conference. We will wrap this up here and we will be back at 1 p.m. with our first afternoon session. So we hope to see everyone there and enjoy your lunch. See you at 1.